Hi, my name is Nicolas Vukovic. I'm from Immortal Arts Film Production, and I will show you the Octane render engine today. In the menu bar up there you have a new menu. It's for Octane render, and when you hit this you get the live viewer window and the Octane render settings. Those two windows are the heart of Octane renderer in Cinema4D. And here you have your live preview of the scene, and here you can set up all the global render settings for Octane render. It's possible to render in picture viewer like before, therefore you have to assign Octane renderer here in the drop down, and you can assign your resolution and film aspect and everything like before and render it out. Yes, and to any file format that's integrated very normally. Okay, then let's start to build a scene. First of all, I will close this because we will focus on the live view first. When you here hit the resend button, the scene gets resend to Octane render engine, but at the moment it's empty, so I have to make a cube, for example, and hit resend. And now you see when I navigate here in Cinema4D, I have the real-time response here in the Octane render view. This is really nice and fast. The buttons over here, as I said, this is resend. The whole scene with the materials and stuff gets resent to render engine. This is necessary for the case when you change the geometry of an object or update the material or assign a new material. You have to resend the scene. I can demonstrate that when I change the geometry of this object. So you see it does not get updated, so I hit resend and the object is loaded into the engine. Yeah, next button is re-render. When it gets stuck or something, you can hit this without resending the whole scene. You can just restart the render. If you have a complex scene, the voxelization takes very long time, so you can just hit this and it re-renders the scene. The pause button pauses your render. The play button plays your render. I can show you here with my GPU meter, but it renders so fast you can't see it. I have to turn on my maximum samples, therefore you can start your render settings here. So you reopen, then so they appear, and you have the max samples. I set them up to any high number. Here you can see the progress bar, it's still rendering, and here you can see the GPU is 92% rendering. Normally it's 99%, but I'm recording the screen, so I think yeah, the graphic card is used by the screen capturing too. Okay, the next button is the lock button. Now I have the I can scale this window as I want to, but when I can also lock it to the resolution I've set here in the Cinema4D render settings. So if I press this button, I have here my resolution locked. So when I hit this again and resize it, it snaps to my custom resolution I want. The next button is wait, a little higher. The next button is the clay mode button. If you hit this, the clay mode gets enabled. Therefore, I have to create a material and assign it and resend. Maybe I set the color to any color that we see something. And when I hit this button, it turns off the materials or enables the clay mode. This is very nice to make to check the lighting in the scene or stuff. The next button is Save Image. It saves a PNG image in this resolution of this real-time window. Here you can export an OCS file for the standalone version of Octane render. Here you can pick the focus, and therefore we need a camera. You can create a camera with the normal menu and assign an Octane camera tag to it. Here you have all the tags. That's one way to deal with that. Or you can create a camera with the new object menu here in the live viewer. Then it's called Octane camera. It has already the tag assigned, and we can activate that. Yes, and regarding the focus, pick the focus. I have to set the aperture, for example, to 50, that you can see depth of field here. And with the focus picker, I can pick my focus point, but there is autofocus enabled here in the camera, so I have to turn that off. Now it responds to the length of the camera here, and you can set it with that. Or you click and assign the focal point with a click into the render, and you can see it adjusts the length of the camera, the depth of the camera. This is a very nice, fast way to set the focus. When you have a very, very big depth of field, it's not that easy to set it with the camera objects in the view. So I will turn that back to 0. Yeah, in the camera tag you can set up some things. I will show you that. So, first of all, we have here the camera type. Panoramic is under development, I think, at the moment. I will not use it because I think it crashes. Thin lens is the main camera type. So here we can adjust the field of view. I think you have to resend it. I set up the field of view with this one, or with a field of view of the Cinema4D camera. And if you do that here, it does not update. You have to resend the scene. Yeah, not re-render, resend, and it gets updated. You can set the aperture as I made before for the depth of field example. You can enable the stereo. Now it's a stereo render. You can adjust the colors of the images. Sorry, that was not very nice. For red and blue, for example. Lens shift is to undistort the edges of for architectural visualizations, for example. Focal depth, you can set it here. You can set it with the camera object, or you pick the focus. Autofocus is clear. Then you have the camera imager. This is the way the camera images the scene to the engine. I hope that's right. But you have the possibility to activate it globally, the camera imager. So, you don't have to activate it, it's activated all the time. But this is the global settings, and you can enable it just for the camera itself. So when you have more cameras, this is very useful to have different ISO values and stuff. And you can, here now, you can set all the options of the camera. Or you set them globally. So I stick with the camera settings in the tag. You have the exposure, the f-stop, ISO, the gamma. This is all very nice because it has it's not necessary to re-render the image. You have the real-time response here. That's very nice for almost every option. The film responses are very nice. On the bottom down here you have linear too. You can't see it because the recorded image is too small, but you can switch to linear mode too. Okay, so sorry, the camera. Vignetting, everyone knows that. Saturation, hot pixel removal, that's for when the path tracing engines have one problem, that they get hot pixels with caustics and such materials, and you can remove them here very easily. It's a very cool algorithm. It works perfectly also with animations. Yeah, then the mini display samples, where it starts to distribute the samples with 0. It's this detailed, and when I turn that up, the minimum is higher, and white balance and all that. Like the camera imager, the post-processing options can be set globally here, or just within the camera, and I will activate that. But to see it better, I will improve our scene. Therefore, I make a sun with a daylight tag, so we have a nice sun scene. So for the geometry, I have to update the scene, so we have a nice sun. One moment, I turn it up to white, that it's more bright. So now I can activate the post-processing, and you see the blooming is working very nice, and the glare is when you look into the sun, for example, or you have reflective surfaces, you can see that very nice. Yes, that's the post-processing options. Yeah, set it globally or in your camera as you like. The sun tag, or in daylight tag, brings some option with it. The turbidity you can set, the power, and the offset. That's just an offset. That's not daylight and night time. It's just the offset of the sun. You can turn it around. When you want to make an evening scene, you can adjust the time like before in Cinema4D. Sometimes it works. Yeah, I think you have to resend sometimes. If anything gets weird in here, first try is resend the scene and look if it gets better. Yeah, that's all regarding the daylight tag. Yeah, the next tag is the environment tag. Here you have to make a normal standard sky and assign this tag to it, or you go here and create an Octane texture environment. It's the same. And here you can assign some FX, some nodes you want. In this case, we have an RGB spectrum. You can assign the color here of the background. And if you load an HDR image, you can rotate that here. That works very, very nice. And one thing which should be standard activated, I think, is the importance sampling. When you have subsurface scattering or other complex materials and you use the environment tag or environment HDR or something, importance sampling is an improved version of sampling the environment, and this speeds it up like 10 times, and I think it should be enabled for standard. But okay, be sure when you get much noise with subsurface scattering and HDR, then check this and you will see it's much faster than before. Yes, that's all regarding this tag. The next tag is the light tag, therefore I have to make my scene very dark. And when you make a light, it does not render because it has to be an area light. Wow. So now you can see there's a little bit of light in the scene. Maybe I turn up the ISO. Yes, you can see it, it's there. But to have more options, and I think to have a fully physical Octane light, you have to assign the light tag, and you see it's brighter than before. And here you can set up all the things for the light. Texture light to load the texture, black body emission is normal light, you have the temperature of the light, you can normalize the light, the power, the distribution, you can set, I don't know really know what this means, but it's nice. Here you can load the texture, I think, or the material. The color. You can color the light. Turn down the power. Okay. Yes, orientation, sample rate to make it more detailed, and the opacity. You can't see the light at the moment in the render, and with this you can turn it on. The cool thing about this is you can actually turn the light a little bit down, that it's not so burned out on the edges. That's nice, I think. But it's still in the render. When you have a light, a very bright light in a room, in an interior scene, and the light is seen in some reflections or mirrors, and there it's very bright, you can turn it down here extra. That's very good. Now I show you the materials. There are two ways to create materials. The first way is to create it with this menu in the live viewer. You can create diffuse, glossy or specular material. You can create an Octane mix material, where you can mix two materials, for example these two, you can mix with a float slider, or you assign here, for example, fall off map or something, check, for example. Yeah, that's the first way to create materials. The second and normal way is to create it with the Cinema4D menu. And when you create an Octane material, it's like you create a diffuse material here. You have to choose the type of material afterwards if you create it like that. And you can choose glossy or specular or something. The first thing you see about the specular material is that it's black. I think it should be standard that the transmission value is set to 1. I will talk to Ahmed regarding that. Yeah, so you have the specular material. At the moment, the downside of the material system is that you don't have the node system like in Octane standalone renderer, which is very powerful. You just have the normal Cinema4D channels, and you can assign the wait, I put that up there. You can assign the nodes you know from Octane standalone, you can assign here. but you can't connect nodes like in standalone and use one noise for more materials. But I think that this option maybe will come, I don't know. So yes, you can set the colors, you can load your own color spectrum and set it with an RGB spectrum. This is a specular material. That's the next point. In the specular material does not use the diffuse channel, but it's there. You can set anything, but it does not use it. Just the diffuse material uses this. Maybe this gets changed. I think these checkboxes are there for yes. And assigning the material is not that complicated. It's like in Cinema4D for years. You just drag and drop it onto the object and hit resend. Yeah, last thing about Octane plugin is the Octane render settings window. I will show you the options. The kernel options, here you can set the render kernel, deep channel. Yeah, here you have the normals. You can choose from the drop down the available channels. Direct lighting is very cool. You can set the diffuse depth higher, so the secondary bounces get bounced more often. Yes, you have the settings for that. There's path tracing and PMC, the most complex algorithm, I think, or kernel. Yeah, I switched back to direct lighting because it's the fastest of those three. The camera imager I already explained, the post effects too. The preview tab is for rendering very quick previews. You can set the image size, the image range and the frame step and an output folder. Yeah, you have 3 update options because when you animate your material, for example, you have to check this update materials option, that the materials get updated every frame. That's the point of this preview option, that not every animation and stuff will be exported frame by frame, so you have a quicker preview of your animation. The settings tab, here is my plugin account information. Here you can activate and deactivate your plugin. Here is render priority setting. It's set to low normally. I don't know if this is implemented perfectly or coded, if it's finished, because it makes no difference in my opinion. Yeah, but okay. Here I just have one graphics card, but I will get more because I like this renderer. Here you can choose between up to 8 different graphic cards to render or not render. If they are checked, they render. If not, they don't. These 3 options I don't know. The log I don't know too. Yes, that's all. Here you can check and uncheck the update options, as I mentioned before, and you can update geometry too, but this is under development and not stable, but I can show you. It basically does one moment, where's the power of love? Here, when I edit the geometry again, it updates the geometry instantly. That's very nice. Oh, the light is now there. Okay. It's very nice, but it's under development and not stable, but it will be soon. It's nice for animations. The cool thing is, let's make a very professional animation. So yeah, you can see the animation preview, very cool. And it's stable. Sometimes it crashes, but it works. It's unbelievably fast. You have to imagine if you have 4 Titan cards or stuff like that, it's nearly real time for scenes like that. That's insane. And here I show you my Baroque lady scene. It's how fast it renders. Oh, it's the wrong camera. Sorry. This one. It's very fast and nice and good looking. Yeah. And now I have an HDR image assigned to my environment tag. So now I can show you the rotation, how it works. It's very nice to set this up in real time. This one, yeah, that's nice too, and more power. That you see the blooming is very nice, but I can turn it down too, or turn it up. Yeah. It's very nice, fast, and it's very funny to play around because it's nearly real time for smaller scenes. But it depends on your graphics cards. So I just have one GTX 680. Some guys have 4 Titans and say it's nearly real time and very sick. Good. I hope that helps for you to get started with Octane. And sorry for my English. Sometimes I haven't slept well. And yeah, have much fun with that and see you. Bye.